What's up guys, Blitz here today bringing you another video. I've been wanting to make this video for quite some time now and talk about these top 5 moments for characters within Final Fantasy VII Remake. This game series has meant a lot to me growing up, and even now, as an adult, Final Fantasy VII has changed my life yet again. So I figured, let's get things rolling with my personal favorite Final Fantasy character of all time, Tifa Lockhart. Strong or powerful women have always fascinated me, from Aya Brea, Lara Croft, Chun-Li, my crazy girlfriend, and of course, Tifa Lockhart. As she's designed, Tifa is extremely attractive and has massive sex appeal. Yet, she does not embody the personality of someone who would show those traits off, and instead of being arrogant or flirtatious, as a character, she's very shy and concerned while also being selfless, kind, and giving. She goes out of her way constantly to make sure that others are good and puts them before herself, many times over too. In Remake, we see her guard up and she's quite reserved. She keeps things bottled up instead of speaking her mind, keeping her true thoughts to herself, which I struggle with a lot too, and is probably a reason why I resonate so well with her. Tifa is a well-grounded and possibly the most reasonable or real character in Final Fantasy VII Remake and the original game. Seeing her journey to overcome her issues in the original game was a big deal for me, and in the journey for Remake, I'm excited to see how these things unfold. And hopefully, her journey helps many others out in the same ways that it has for me. So now with all that being said, let's get into these top 5 Tifa moments in Final Fantasy VII Remake. Number 5.
Or I'll smash 'em.
Starting off with a fun scene, this whole chapter in Remake just oozes many enjoyable moments and is easily a fan favorite for many who have played the original game as well. From Tifa and Aerith taking down Don Corneo's men with ease and style, Cherith Painsborough being born, and the whole entire dungeon sequence, this chapter is just filled with lots of great moments for everyone. But fans of the original game will remember when Tifa, Cloud, and Aerith enter Don Corneo's room, they partake in a series of well-coordinated and threatening dialogue where each of the party members threatens the family jewels of Don Corneo with extreme violence. And just like in the original game, Tifa leads the whole interrogation process and questions Don Corneo. This is indeed a shared scene among the party, but this is a moment where we get to see Tifa's feistiness come out from beginning to end and shows her taking control of a situation. Remake does a fantastic job of just making this scene that everyone remembers an even better rendition. From Tifa's theme remix playing in the background, Cloud and Aerith making great supporting castmates, the intense red lighting to go with Tifa's sadistic yet firm face as she delivers the final blow, or I'll smash 'em. And who can forget the amazing jiggle physics of Don Corneo's stomach, with a triple chin to go with it. Definitely a top 5 moment for me, and a scene I never skip whenever I play this game. Number 4, Conquering Fear. Chapter 11 showcases Cloud, Aerith, and Tifa going through the train graveyard in a much longer journey than they did in the original game. Throughout this chapter, Tifa is visibly afraid and the most scared out of all 3 of them. Well, I mean, she's at least doing the worst when it comes to hiding her fear, because I also believe Cloud is scared here too. Everything from her body language to her voice acting shows that she's looking for reassurance that everything will be okay and is clearly creeped out when many things happen and jump scares them. They make it painfully obvious too. If you just look at her during every interaction for this chapter, compared to Aerith, Tifa is scared shitless the whole entire time. However, at the very end of it, when her friends are in danger and her home is on the line, she takes charge and takes out the enemy boss Eligor in an extremely badass way, busting out a limit break somersault. It's such a satisfying scene, guys, like really. I loved it so much. I used this shot of Tifa a lot in my thumbnails if you guys remember from previous videos. Even though it may be a small moment, the character arc Tifa goes through here was pretty enjoyable. This is a top scene for me because she starts off this chapter so afraid, and through this journey, thanks to Cloud and Aerith, overcomes her fears and takes action to end the situation so that they could finally move forward, and it fits with her character very well with her shy and reserved nature, and her eventual form to taking charge and being strong. From wanting nothing to do with ghosts to clapping their cheeks with her bare fucking hands, this is a great Final Fantasy chapter. All it's missing is a ghost train suplex, but you know, with Tifa's limit breaks, we might see some even crazier things for future releases of Remake, so looking forward to that. Number 3, CloudsRealization. This moment is actually a shared moment between her and Cloud, and it's covered in 3 separate interactions, but ultimately it does occur at the end of chapter 4. However, in the beginning of chapter 4, we see a scene we already interacted with in the previous chapter 3 towards the end, with Tifa at the bar after the Avalanche meeting where they announce that they're kicking out Cloud. But it's prefaced and given more meaning with the legendary iconic flashback of The Promise, a memory for Cloud where he and Tifa meet up in the middle of the night in their hometown as kids. It showcases Cloud being the one to initiate the meetup and for him to tell her that he's going to be leaving town to become a soldier. Simply because, we all know this, he's really just trying to impress her and stand out from the rest of the guys leaving the village. Tifa's sad to hear about this, and in an attempt to bind them together, forces a friendly but deeply meaningful promise on Cloud. She mentions that if she's ever in a bind or trapped, that he promises to come and save her since he wants to be a soldier. Remember now, the key word here is trapped. Cloud agrees to this promise, and the two gaze at the stars together. This memory triggers another thought for Cloud to also remember earlier when she says in the bar she feels trapped, which is the key word that she mentioned in the promise, and having second thoughts about Avalanche's plans. Later in the chapter, at the end, this is the moment. Tifa comes to Cloud's room and makes small talk, beating around the bush for what she really wants to ask him. She's concerned about his path and whether or not he will stick around. Cloud does bring up the promise he made to her all those years back, which surprises Tifa a lot. Just listen to how many sighs of relief she gives us here. And then also follows up with laughing kind of maniacally to herself, sort of. And I know internally she's screaming like this. She breathes multiple sighs of relief and even expresses concern that Cloud is actually opening up himself and pokes fun at him for it. I know she says he's losing that hard edge, but it looked like he kind of gaining that hard edge, you know what I'm saying? Tifa, feeling accomplished, smiles and says that she's glad to have him back. Really glad. Which, I know it's not part of the game's story, but if you did read Traces of Two Paths, this actually means a lot to her and it gives a little bit more insight to it. I highly recommend it if you haven't yet. I think this is a great scene as it shows some weight being lifted from her shoulders and Cloud finally loosening up a bit.
Finally.
Number 2, Alone at Last. This moment is optional and missable unless you complete all of the side quests in chapter 3 while Tifa is showing you around the slums. It also shows up very early into the game, but it left such a great impact on myself, it's borderline number 1 for me. Cloud and Tifa go back to their apartment to change water filters. And then once we get to Tifa's room, she corners Cloud and playfully demands that he give her an update on his life and what he was doing after he left the village all those years ago. Earlier in the chapter, her interest is shown when he says that it's been 5 years since they last saw each other. She asks him about this, after Cloud suffers a Genova headache in front of Biggs and Wedge, of course. Tifa, immediately concerned, asks him about what did he go through, with "been meaning to ask, after you left the village." Cloud brushes it off, saying that it would take too long to explain, but a determined Tifa insists that she doesn't mind and offers to continue to help him gain his bearings in the slums. Towards the end of the chapter, she finally gets a chance to ask him again, this time in her room. Everything about this scene and moment kept me smiling ear to ear during my first watch and playthrough of it. And if you have read Traces of Two Paths book for Aerith and Tifa, one line here she says will hit a bit harder. Like her comments about how it's funny how they both go their separate ways thinking that's it. But now they meet up here again, of all places. I have a video series already reading through Tifa's chapters, which were expertly edited by my boy Threefold Maker, so be sure to check that out on the top right if you guys have not yet. But in this scene, everything from the way Tifa turns around and smiling at Cloud, then casually walking over to him with her hands behind her back while also blocking the exit, and it's designed to be in first person view, which is giving us, the players, a better perspective of this because they know that we know she is attractive and they're using that against us in this moment to make the scene hit a little bit harder. Great. This is a moment where I love how the developers utilize her attractiveness to sort of bait the audience from titling it Alone at Last, using Marl to also build tension by scolding Cloud throughout the entire chapter and being protective over Tifa, then having them be alone in her room with nobody else to eavesdrop or interfere. It's just really well done in my opinion, and great self-awareness by the devs. They really know what they're doing. Tifa gets Cloud to let his guard down as she slowly chips away at him through the entire chapter. This is just an unskippable scene for me. I always find myself doing all the annoying side quests here just to get this interaction. Tifa knows that something is wrong with Cloud. His timetable of when they last saw each other has kept her concerned since he returned. So slowly she's monitoring him in order to find out what exactly could be wrong. When Cloud begins to explain his past and how working for Shinra was, he does get hung up on his clouded memories, no pun intended. And Tifa, trying to not pry too much, realizes something is wrong and that she has to try again another time. So she apologizes, saying that she knows it's a touchy subject, and then changes the subject by suggesting a morale booster. That they both one night dress up and go out basically on a date together, which Cloud, while smiling, agrees. And they also want to coordinate their outfits together. It's a great Cloud and Tifa moment many fans love, but I just love the way Tifa set this up from the beginning of the chapter, asking him about his past, then ultimately coming back to it in a very playful way. It is a shame that we never got to really see how this would unfold, and it was just a setup to showcase what she would wear for the Chapter 9 situation with Don Corneo. But still, we can hope that we might get a date in the future for Remake Part 2 with either her and Aerith, her and Cloud, or Cloud and Aerith. I don't know. I want to see these characters interact and do funny things together like that. Fingers are crossed, but the Alone at Last scene is number 2 in my top 5. And now we have some very good honorable mentions before we get to number 1. Some really, really good scenes that we just could not leave out from this list.
I'm a light sleeper. It's a soldier thing.
That flower you gave me the other night, that was from Aerith, wasn't it?
My top mention would have to be Tifa's resolution scene. But hear me out first, guys. I know a lot of you guys are probably saying the resolution scenes are amazing. How could they not be in the top 5? But let me tell you why. For every character, the resolution scenes are all amazing. Barrett's, Tifa's, and Aerith's. They all share one particular scene and moment in which this occurs, and it's just too easy to lock it into a slot for a top 5. But they will all be honorable mentions for this series going forward. I just wanted to let you guys know that. Tifa's moment is such an emotional one because she breaks through all her reserves and her character. While she usually keeps things together, she breaks down here and opens up to her childhood friend, the only other person from her past who is not burnt to ashes or buried, as she says. It's hard to not tear up seeing this, seeing two childhood friends, the only people around from their past, finally get to reconnect after a tragic thing happened to everyone they knew, only for them to relate the Sector 7 platefall to Shinra taking everything away from her and Cloud yet again. The music, the emotions, everything just being put on display here are perfectly executed to a T. All of the resolutions are great for every character and are obvious choices, so I just want to keep you guys on your toes and let y'all know what to expect from this series going forward, because I love them all. The next honorable mention is Tifa fighting against the failed experiments with Barrett underground. Cloud is missing, Tifa and Barrett are alone and being swarmed, while we get to witness an amazing pair of superhero landings with Tifa whipping failed Mako ass. The Airbuster segment is another honorable mention, as the chapter starts off with Tifa being afraid of Shinra and the fact that they trap them and they are being watched. Even at the end, when President Shinra and Heidegger explain to them that there's no hope for them, Tifa walks up and kicks the shit out of a slug ray while interrupting Heidegger and screaming she's sick of all of this. A callback to when her father was murdered by Sephiroth, as Cloud remembers. The pillar scene where she and Cloud meet up and he catches her is pretty damn cool. It's a great moment even when Cloud tries to scold her for coming up all the way there, and she tells him that he needs to suck it up because she's here now and there's nothing else that he can do about it. A great honorable mention is when in chapter 17, Aerith is being surrounded by whispers in the very beginning. Tifa jumps in and pulls Aerith out and reassures her that they're all in this together and they will find a way to win. And the final honorable mention is the team interactions with Tifa and Aerith for chapter 17 when they save Red 13 and high five and give the boys a thumbs up. Also when she super dashes the Omni Strike and shoulder charge a Mako juice junkie off the rails. It's pretty sick, I'm not gonna lie. Number 1, a second chance for a helping hand. Tifa as a character is filled with lots of regret. She acts too late and bottles things up instead of saying what she's feeling, and it's almost to a fault. The failure of not being able to save Cloud when he fell from the Sector 5 reactor is something that definitely stuck with her. Reconnecting with your longtime childhood friend and being hopeful that you're about to have a future together in some way, because Cloud says in Chapter 4 he does plan to stick around and even made plans for a date, but you seemingly lose him from him falling from the Sector 5 reactor, but there was nothing you could do in that moment. Well, in Chapter 17, after Cloud is fighting Rufus, Tifa senses something is wrong and opts to stay behind, while Aerith, Barrett, and Red 13 go and fight Arsenal, which is something that does happen in the original game technically. After the fight with Rufus, Cloud is hanging from the building and cannot pull himself up. As he starts to lose his grip, Tifa swoops in and with an amazing parry materia slide, grabs him and saves him while also poking fun at him. She says, "You gotta be better than this if you're gonna play the hero." A soft version of Tifa's theme starts to play in the background while Cloud smiles, and they share a moment while he grips her hand even harder. The camera focuses on their hands interlocked until it fades out and provides great symbolism between the two's dynamic and their relationship towards one another. She finally had a second chance to save him and perfectly executed it. Something that did not happen in the original game, but is such a fantastic scene. I'm glad that they added it into here, because it means so much to her as a character. She's got lots of regrets, so she made sure that at the next opportunity, she would not let it pass her by and fail again. A great callback to Chapter 7's ending and just overall showing us where Tifa's psyche is at the end of the day. I love it, even if she failed to realize that, the Whispers could have technically saved him anyways, just like they did for Barrett a few moments ago. And those are my top 5 Tifa moments for Final Fantasy VII Remake. It was not easy to choose these because I really wanted to focus on more character-driven moments with chapter-long meanings and build-ups. Not necessarily one-liners or funny interactions, but stuff that really adds to the moments in this game that sticks with you as a player. If you guys have other moments, please feel free to comment down below and let me know why. Number them 1 through 5 and let me know what your top moments for Tifa are. And again, let's leave the resolution scenes off limits because they simply are too amazing to include and it's just a little bit too easy. I want to hear what you guys think. Also, vote in the comments below, who do you guys want to see next? Be sure to like the video if you enjoyed and subscribe if you are new. More Final Fantasy VII Remake videos are coming your way and you won't want to miss them. My name is BltzZ and thanks for watching.